Hola, me llamo Antonio Sacre. My name is Antonio Sacre, and I'm the author of My Name is Cool. My father is from Cuba, and all of us have a bunch of nicknames in my father's Cuban family. And I wanted to write a book about all of the nicknames that I have. But I also want you to think about why you are called what you are called. Do you know why you have your first name or your middle name? Do you have any nicknames? Do you know why your parents are called what they're called? If they have any nicknames? If they do, then you can write the story about that. And here is my story. My Name is Cool, written by me, Antonio Sacre, illustrated by Sara de Monteverde. I have got a bunch of nicknames. A bunch. 11. How did I get them all? When I was born, I kept my eyes squeezed shut so tightly that my mom called me Mr. Magoo from a cartoon she loved. My papa said that I was going to be bilingual like him, so he called me El Señor Magoo. When my tío Tito visited me in the hospital, he said that El Señor Magoo was too long, so he shortened it to El Goo. They couldn't put El Goo on my birth certificate, so they called me Antonio Bernardo Sacre. Antonio, like my papa, and my abuela, and my bisabuelo. And Bernardo, after my papa's best friend from Cuba, who could never leave the island ever. And Sacre, my last name. 3 days of my life, 6 names. 3 days old, 6 names. Mr. Magoo, El Señor Magoo, El Goo, Antonio Bernardo Sacre. When we arrived home, my abuela grabbed me in her arms and called me Papito, a name Cuban grandmothers call their nietos. Papito. When my prima Barbara saw me, she hugged me and squeezed me. A bunch. She rubbed my head and said, Coquito, or little coconut head, because my head was small and round and brown like a coconut. When I learned to walk, I walked fast. Really fast. So fast that I bumped into lots and lots of things. I always had little scratches and bruises on my body. One day, my tío Miguel noticed my bumps and bruises. He said, Hola, futinguito, or old, beat-up, run-down jalopy car that has more dents than you can count. 1 year old, 9 names. Mr. Magoo, El Señor Magoo, El Goo, Antonio Bernardo Sacre, Papito, Coquito, Futinguito. Soon I was all grown up, 5 years old. The night before my first day of kindergarten, I didn't want to go to school. At all. My papa had an idea. We made a boat of cushions and pillows and went on a sailing adventure. Papa called himself El Comandante, and I chose to be El Capitan. We sailed all around the world, over the sea of words, past the islands of numbers, near the country of shapes. My papa told me I would get to visit those and even more wonderful places in kindergarten. Now, I couldn't wait to go. As we sailed the waves, a mosquito landed on my papa's rear end. As captain, I had to act. Fast. I smacked it. Hard. My papa whooped. I showed him the squashed bug on my hand. He laughed and called me El Capitán de los Mosquitos. 5 years old. 10 names. Mr. Magoo, El Señor Magoo, El Goo, Antonio Bernardo Sacre, Papito, Coquito, Futinguito, El Capitán de los Mosquitos. The next morning, I walked to kindergarten all by myself. If you look closely at the picture, you'll see that I wasn't entirely all by myself. There was my mom and my dad and my cousin and my abuela and my uncle and my other uncle. Mrs. Green smiled at me and pointed toward an open desk. She called off names from a fancy book. Mary Smith, a girl said. Here. Darrell Washington. Here. Then she called. Antonio Sacre? Everyone looked around the room. I looked too. Antonio Sacre. We all kept searching. She looked at me. Honey, are you Antonio Sacre? I don't really think that's my name, I said. Oh, I'm pretty sure this is you. Aren't you Antonio Sacre? She squinted at me. Well, you must be Antonio because I found a name for everyone else. Well, I think my name is Mr. Magoo, El Señor Magoo, El Gu, Antonio Bernardo Sacre, Papito, Coquito, Futinguito, El Capitán de los Mosquitos, I said. The class started to giggle. Don't be silly, dear. What is your name? My name is Mr. Magoo, El Señor Magoo, El Gu, Antonio Bernardo Sacre, Papito, Coquito, Futinguito, El Capitán de los Mosquitos. The class giggled louder. Please don't cause a fuss on the first day of school. Your name is Antonio Sacre. Actually, I think my name is more than that. It's... But before I could explain, one student in the back of the room said, "Hey, it's Goo Goo." And another said, "It's Potato." Everyone laughed out loud. I kind of laughed too, but I didn't like the nicknames they called me so much. The teacher looked at me sternly. "Please walk to the office, talk to the principal, and come back here with a normal name." I walked into the office. A lady sat in a cozy chair and pointed to a chair across from her. "I understand there's been a ruckus in Mrs. Green's room." I nodded. "What's your name?" I took a deep breath. I remembered who I was, and I said, "My name is Mr. Magoo, El Señor Magoo, El Gu, Antonio Bernardo Sacre, Papito, Coquito, Futinguito, El Capitán de los Mosquitos." She looked right at me. "Young man, can you please tell me the story of your names?" I told her about my whole bunch of names, all 10 of them, and the people who gave them to me, and why they gave them to me. She smiled, and her eyes crinkled at the corners. "You, my friend, have a wonderful name, one that you should be proud of. Go back to the classroom and tell Mrs. Green that that is your name, and add this one for me." She leaned over the desk and whispered in my ear. I smiled. 11 names! I raced back to my kindergarten classroom. "Did you clear up the problem about your name?" Mrs. Green asked. "Yes," I said. "My name is Mr. Magoo, El Señor Magoo. El Gu, Antonio Bernardo Sacre, Papito, Coquito, Futinguito, El Capitán de los Mosquitos. And the principal says, my name is cool." Mrs. Green smiled and said, "Cool. I think I'm going to really like school." And that is the story of my 11 names. Now that I'm older, I have a bunch of other names. Kids call me that storyteller guy. My children call me Dad. My brother calls me still a pain in the neck after all these years, but I love you. That's what my brother just said to me last night on the phone. Good luck finding out the story of your name and the story of the names in your family. And thank you for reading my book.